"You're grounded until you apologize to your stepmom," my dad barked, his voice slicing through the kitchen like a blade. I froze mid-step, cereal bowl in hand, and the world seemed to shrink into that one sentence. My stepmom, standing by the counter, didn't flinch. She folded her arms, her expression perfectly calm, as if she had known this moment was coming for weeks, maybe months. I wanted to scream, to run, to disappear into the walls of this house I had called home for nearly 3 years. But I stayed. Silence can be louder than any tantrum, and I knew that better than anyone. I stared at her, the one person whose presence had always felt like a gentle weight, now a wall between me and the father I loved. Apologize. The word bounced in my skull like a hammer. She hadn't done anything wrong, at least not to me, but somehow the rules had shifted overnight. I caught my reflection in the microwave door. A 14-year-old boy trapped between loyalty, anger, and the quiet fury that built inside when authority feels blind. The day had started normally. Breakfast, the hum of the coffee machine, and my earbuds blasting music too loud for the walls to contain. But beneath the routine I had sensed it, the careful glances, the small whispers behind my back, the subtle adjustments in the way my dad looked at her. I didn't know when the balance had tipped, when their quiet alliance had become a weapon pointed directly at me. I wanted to understand it, to trace the moments back, to find where I had gone wrong. But understanding didn't change what came next. And then it hit me, sharp and unavoidable. This wasn't about respect. It was about control. I set the cereal down, my hands trembling slightly, and forced myself to meet her eyes. She didn't look angry or mean, just unshakable. That calmness was worse than a scream because it reminded me how powerless I truly felt in that moment. My dad's stare burned into me, silent but relentless, as if he were daring me to fight him, to challenge the rules that had been written overnight. But I knew better. I had learned, over years of trying, that defiance in this house wasn't met with understanding, it was met with consequences. "Go to your room," my stepmom said softly, but the weight behind her voice carried the authority of someone who had learned exactly how to bend people without raising a hand. I obeyed, moving like a ghost through the hallway, each step echoing in the silent judgment of the walls. Once inside my room, I collapsed onto the bed, staring at the ceiling. The ceiling didn't care. It didn't take sides. Hours passed in silence, the kind that stretches and stretches until every thought feels heavier than the last. I replayed the morning over and over, every glance, every word, every quiet moment that had led to this public humiliation. My dad, the man I had idolized, had turned his voice into a weapon. My stepmom, the person I had once tried to protect, had become the unexpected accomplice. And me? I was just a pawn in their carefully orchestrated game, forced to apologize for a wrong I hadn't committed. But beneath the anger, beneath the humiliation, something stirred, a quiet, stubborn determination. I realized that this wasn't just about a single argument or a single command. It was about the rules of the house, about who got to control the narrative, about who decided whose feelings mattered. And if I played my cards right, if I waited and watched carefully, I could turn the silence into something powerful. Because even the strongest control can crack under pressure. The next day, I walked into the living room with a quiet confidence I hadn't felt before. My dad looked up, expecting defiance, expecting anger, expecting tears. Instead, I met his gaze and said nothing. My stepmom watched, waiting for me to crumble, for me to beg forgiveness I didn't owe. But I had learned something important. Silence carries weight. Later that evening, I sat at the kitchen table, writing my own version of the morning's events in my notebook. Each word was careful, deliberate, a map of every slight, every unfair rule, every twisted expectation. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just documented the truth quietly, meticulously. Because truth has a way of revealing itself, and patience makes it unstoppable. When my dad finally asked for the apology, I spoke, not out of weakness, not out of submission, but with calm clarity. My words weren't just words, they were measured, honest, and delivered with the authority of someone who understood their own value. And in that moment, I realized that the power in this house didn't belong to anyone who barked or commanded. It belonged to those who knew when to act, when to wait, and when to let the truth speak for itself. I stood up, closed the notebook, and walked past them both. Silence followed me like a shadow, but this time it was mine. Because in the quiet, I had already won.